Perfect fit closets. How to use jewelry trays, belt trays that are gray felt pullouts. In our catalog, we have 3 different types of jewelry trays and belt trays. The first item is in a 24-inch wide module. We have a jewelry tray and belt tray with no fronts. We have a 24-inch wide module with jewelry trays and belt trays with no fronts. And we have a 26.5-inch wide jewelry tray and belt tray with no fronts and with spacers. So let's dive in and differentiate the differences between all 3, when to use them, and how to use them, as well as installation. In our dealer portal, we can refer down to our product section and in our accessories. In our accessory page, we can scroll down to our closet accessories. In our closet accessories, we have the jewelry tray that are 14 inches deep, 24 inches wide, and 2 inches high. And we also have a belt tray that's 14 inches deep, 24 inches wide, and 4 inches high. You can interchangeably use them depending on the client's preferences and how much storage they need. If we select our jewelry tray, inside we can find our spec sheet as well as installation instructions. The jewelry tray and the belt tray are one and the same. We have 2 different sections where it has a tray standalone and it's got a front. With our standalone trays, we can see in the image that it's a tray by itself and it's got side slides and the pulled out picture of the side slide. Down below is the exact same concept with a front. This is a 6-inch high front, and you'll notice in our illustrations we have got our front in the first image. The second image we have the front, which is a drop down front. The drop down front, it's exactly uses the same hardware as a cabinet door, except we have the hinge in the front and the plate in the front, and that drops down. The last illustration, we can see that exact same feature where it's got a fixed shelf in the bottom, fixed shelf below, top and bottom, and then the jewelry front dropping down. And then the client can then pull out the jewelry tray. Essentially, the jewelry trays are one and the same, with the exception of the bottom section. We are encasing the jewelry tray to make it seem like it's a standalone item. If we refer back to our belt tray, we have the exact same illustrations. In our 2020 design, with our local browser, I'm going to ensure that I've chosen my PFC catalog, either the Canadian version or the US version. I'm going to select our parts, and in our drawers, below drawers, we have a section dedicated to jewelry trays and belt trays. We have a jewelry tray 24-inch wide with a 6-inch front, a 12-inch front. We have the belt tray with an 8-inch front and a 12-inch front. We also got jewelry trays no front, belt trays no front, and then we also have jewelry trays that are 26.5 inches wide with spacers with no fronts. So let's figure out the differences between all 3. In my current elevation, I've got a tall module 24 inches deep and 2 tall modules that are 14 inches deep. Now, please note, jewelry trays and belt trays will always come 14 inches deep. Regardless of how deep your module is going to be, the jewelry trays will not change dimensions. This is an item from our supplier, Hayfla, and this is a preset item. You cannot change the module to different sizes and depths and finding that the jewelry tray changes size. It does not change the size. Let's add our basic jewelry tray with no fronts. If we add a jewelry tray no fronts, we can have a jewelry tray and they can be intertwined and moved all around. Let's delete that jewelry tray. Now let's choose a jewelry tray with a 6-inch high front. Whenever you have a jewelry tray or a belt tray with a front, you need a fixed shelf in place. If I don't have a fixed shelf in place, the item is going to attach itself to the next nearest available fixed shelf. In the middle module, the next available fixed shelf is the bottom shelf, which is typically too low for a lot of our clients. So I'm just going to grab this fixed shelf. I'm going to drop it right here in the middle and put it in there like so. Typically, you would have drawers in the very bottom. I'm going to drag and drop my jewelry tray 24-inch wide with a 6-inch high front. We look down at our schematics. I've made these jewelry trays accordingly, and I can certainly change them as well. So let's use the middle one with a 24-inch wide section here. All right, so we're using the middle module. I've just changed the widths on a couple of our modules. We're going to work on our middle module here. We're going to grab our jewelry tray 24-inch wide with a 6-inch high front. We're going to drag it into my elevation. I'm still holding down the left button on my mouse. I see my magnet and I'm going to let go. And you can see that the jewelry tray has now attached itself to the next nearest available fixed shelf. I can certainly move it to the next one available. So we're going to drop that in and I'm going to left click again. And now we have the jewelry tray with the 6-inch high front dropped. To finish off my design, I would need a fixed shelf at the very top. All our profiles, as indicated with our other videos, we have a half overlay for all our fronts. So to complete this, I'm going to go to my parts, shelves, and grab a fixed shelf, drag and drop, and go to half overlay. So this jewelry front is now complete. Let's try that again with our belt tray. I'm going to double click on our categories. We're going to double click accessories. Oh, my apologies. Double click on our categories, parts, drawers, and underneath our drawers, let's scroll down to find our belt tray. So our belt tray is 24 inches wide by 8 inches high. We're going to drag it into our elevation view. I see my magnet, and I'm going to let go of my button. And I'm going to attach itself to the next available fixed shelf, which is right here. I'm going to left click once, and it now is officially dropped. And again, to enclose it, we're going to go to our parts, double click our shelves, and left click shelf fixed, drag it into our elevation, and let go of our mouse and find the next nearest available section that we want this to. We're going to drop it right above our belt tray 8 inches high with a half overlay, and my belt tray is now complete. Now let's go a little advanced here. Let's go back into our section. We're going to double click on our categories, double click on our parts, and double click our drawers. We also now have a jewelry tray with no fronts, as well as a 12-inch high front. So let's combine those together. I'm going to go ahead and delete this current jewelry tray. And I'm going to move up my fixed shelf. I'm going to grab a jewelry tray 24-inch wide with a 12-inch high front. We're going to drag it into my elevation. I see my magnet. I'm going to let go of my mouse, and we're going to drop it to my fixed shelf. I'm going to left click once, and now I have a jewelry tray, as you can see from the perforated lines of my jewelry tray and my front. I'm going to grab my fixed shelf. We're going to drag it down, half overlay my front, and now I've got a large space here. Now, what I can do is I can grab a jewelry tray, no front. I'm going to left click, drag it into my module, let go of my mouse when I see my magnet, and I can drop it in, and I'm going to try to force it inside this section here. To force any item in 2020, we're going to hold the control button down on your keyboard. I'm going to hold it down, and I'm going to move my mouse down, and it's going right through and inside the jewelry tray 12-inch high front. I'm going to let go and click on my mouse, and I can see that there's a jewelry tray behind here. This forces a collision. This is a notification for us to indicate that there's something wrong with that drawer box. We know that there is a jewelry tray 12-inch high front, but also a jewelry tray 24 inch wide no front behind it. I'm going to right click on the front itself, go into my attributes, and I can see all the items that it comes with: handles, soft close plates, the Euro screws, hinges, flat screws, so all the necessary parts for this item. If I click it again, I'm going to left click off screen to my right here, left click once. I'm going to right click and find JDRW12. Once I find that, I'm going to click on my attributes. I'll right click the illustration, and this gives you a sense of a whole of what's included. I'm going to left click on my variables. And in the middle of my rows here, I have open item with accessory. I'm going to left click on this box and check mark it. And we're going to open up this accessory. I'm going to click on OK. And that accessory is now open. If we go into our perspective view, we can see now the jewelry tray front has now dropped down, and the actual item has now pulled out. So you can see that we have two jewelry trays inside this. This will help your dealers and customers out if they want more jewelry trays by spending less money. So we're theoretically encompassing two jewelry trays in one housing complex. And we could do the same thing with our belt trays. Here's our belt tray. We're going to delete our current belt tray. We're going to do the exact same concept. We're going to move this fixed shelf up a little bit. We're going to grab our belt tray 24-inch wide with a 12-inch high front. We're going to drag it into our elevation, let go of my mouse, and drop. We're going to take our fixed shelf. We're going to drop it in as a half overlay. And now on our left-hand side, we're going to grab a belt tray no front. We're going to drag it into our module, drop. I'm letting go of my mouse. I'm going to hold the control button on my keyboard, and we're going to drag it down and force the collision and left click and drop. Now we have two belt trays inside this 12-inch high front. The next section here is we have a tall module 24 inches deep, and this is 26 inches wide. So this is 26 inches wide from the inside module to the inside module. What I'm going to do for this is I'm going to go into my attributes. I'm going to change this tall module. I'm going to right click the illustration so I can see it a bit better. I'm going to make this one 24 inches deep. We're going to pretend that this client here wants a standalone item and they want cabinet doors in the front. So we're going to put cabinet doors on here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a jewelry tray 26 inches wide with spacers and no front. We're also going to grab a shelf fixed first. Let's grab a couple of them for now. They could be handy. Let's double click our categories, parts, double click our drawers. In the bottom of our drawers, we're going to select our jewelry tray 26.5 inches with spacers and no front. We're going to drag it in and we're going to drop. You'll notice because there's no fronts, it's not attaching itself to the fixed shelf. It's not needed. A fixed shelf is only needed if you have a front. This is 26.5 inches wide with no front. I'm going to also grab a belt tray. Now, the reason why this application works is if you have a cabinet door. We're going to go into our categories, parts, and below parts, we're going to grab our C door. Door connect between fixed shelves. We're going to drag it into our module, and we're going to drop. And we're going to just grow this cabinet door until we go from top to top. There's one too many fixed shelves. That'll suffice for the time being. So now I've got a cabinet door. So please use the jewelry tray 26.5 inches wide with spacers if you would like the jewelry tray or the belt tray behind a cabinet door. And the reason why we have spacers for this application is when we open up this door, the jewelry tray or the belt tray, when we slide it out, it's got clearance so it doesn't hit the cabinet door ends. If we open this, we're going to open this item, C door. We're going to click on our attributes. Right-click the illustration so I can see it a bit better. We're going to left-click on our variables, and we're going to open this door. Open door 1, and we're going to use the sliding bar, and we're going to go opening it all the way 90 degrees. We're going to click on OK. The door is officially opened, and let's click on our perspective view. In our perspective view, we can see that we have on our left module a 24-inch deep system with a cabinet door. And you can see the spacers connecting to our jewelry tray and belt tray. And because we have these spacers, it will not interfere with the cabinet door hinges. Therefore, we're creating a variance. If you take a look closer with our 24-inch deep wide system, the jewelry tray, as indicated, is always going to be 14 inches deep. So you will have a dead space. However, we can accommodate that by adding this specific item in here. To recap, we have our 24-inch wide jewelry trays and belt trays. They will never change sizes. They run perfectly for a 14-inch deep module. You can have it without a front or with a front. On our left module, we have our 26.5-inch wide module with a jewelry tray for the 26.5 and the belt tray for the 26.5 with our spacers. And now we can put this into a deeper module, such as 22 inches deep, 24 inches deep, and we could add a cabinet door in the front, and this will not interfere. So those are the applications, and those are the uses for all the jewelry trays and the exceptions and the limitations. If you have any questions, please connect with us at support@perfectfitcanada.com.